Beautiful December day in Michigan. Yay. How do you start these things? Let them know you're funny. I am funny. That's true. Witty? Dad jokes. Why are we here? All right. The questions. I got a lot of questions about how the video's set up. No, I didn't. So I got a lot of questions about the light show, so I thought I'd do a quick walkthrough of the physical elements here. I'll do another video on the software elements next, but wanted to start out with the physical setup so that people could see kind of what goes into putting the show together in the first place. So let me know in the comments if I missed anything, if you want to know any more info on any of this. So let's start the walkthrough. So for this show, there's three main pieces of hardware. There's a Raspberry Pi inside the house. It sends a signal out its Ethernet port to that Ethernet jack there, which runs across to the second piece of hardware, which is the Falcon F16 light controller, which is inside that box. I'll open that up here in a minute. That translates the data, sends it out to the actual pixels. The third piece of hardware is the FM transmitter. That one's really simple though. That's an 1/8 inch jack out of the Raspberry Pi into the FM transmitter, sends it out to whatever station I tell it to. So pretty much those are the three main pieces of hardware. You'll see other boxes. There's that box. There's actually inside of that box also, and inside of this far box over here, they're all power supplies. So a power supply can only handle so many lights, so we have multiple ones across the yard. Usually I have a couple more elements out in the yard that didn't get set up this year, so usually I would have another one sitting here and over there, but didn't make the cut this year. A typical example of how the sequence runs: you code your sequence into X-Lights. X-Lights creates a sequence file. The sequence file gets loaded into the Raspberry Pi, into the software called the Falcon Pi Player. That software is responsible for scheduling and outputting a stream, which is called an E1.31 stream, out its Ethernet port, which is sent out that plug. As it runs, we come to the F16 light controller, and this puppy reads in that signal through its Ethernet cable here, and its job is to take that and turn it into the pixel data, which gets sent out these outputs here. You can see these are the ones that I didn't set up this year. This port, this is hard to do. This port is actually a DMX output to another. It's just my Tune 2 sign that goes out there. A thing I created a long time ago with a DMX switch, controlling outputs just on and off. But essentially, the sequence comes in here and gets translated in the web interface that you tell it which outputs control which lights. So all of these are fused. You can see back here. And they're all running right now. So what's actually running on the house right now is this test sequence from the Falcon Pi Player. Again, getting translated to all channels right now by that and being sent out to the individual lights. The other thing I wanted to show was an actual pixel itself. I've gotten lots of questions about what are the actual pixels. So this is one of, this is just a string of 4 of them that I cut off previously. They're WS2811 chips inside of RGB lights. They're LED, obviously. They are IP68 rated, which essentially means that they're waterproof. I make sure to get the highest rating I can. I don't want to toy around with it. It's Michigan. Lots of snow, lots of rain. Don't want to mess around. Every light essentially has a power, a data, and a ground that comes in. So ground is ground. You just connect all of them. The power is what actually gives it its juice to be able to turn the pixels on and off. And data is the signal that tells it what color do I want to change these to. So I'm not going to dive too deep into technical, but the best thing that I've had to keep in mind for when you're troubleshooting is how they work. Essentially, a signal comes in one side, goes into it. The light says, okay, I'm going to grab the first 3 channels, the R, the G, and the B. I'm going to set the brightness on the R, G, and B pixels that are inside of here to those settings. And then I'm going to chop that first 3 channels off, send the rest of the signal out to the next one. The next one says, oh, I'm going to take the first 3 signals, set my brightness, chop that off, send it to the next one. So each individual pixel doesn't know or care where it's at in this display. It's up to you to set your controller and your Falcon Pi player and X lights up to communicate that and be able to send the right signals to the right elements of the show. So they're addressable. You can change each one, but you know, they're not dumb, but they're kind of dumb. So now we start talking about power. That's the consideration when you're wiring all this stuff up. So I run 12 volts. A lot of people run 5 volts. Debates which one's better. I picked 12 because I didn't want to inject as much power as I had to. When you're talking DC, which is what we're doing here, you get power loss pretty quick. So with 12 volts, what I found is you better start thinking about power injection as soon as you get to about 75 to 100 pixels. If you're less than 75, usually you can just send power in the front and you'll be fine. 75 to 100, you probably want to add power to the back side of it also. Another example, data comes in to the shutter and it goes up to the top. It goes around the whole shutter, back up to the top, and it does a Y with the power, so there's power, zoom, there we go. So there's power at the beginning and the end of the line, and then it jumps down to this one, and then it does a Y to the next, to the window, and it goes around the window, and then it does another jump over to the other shutter, and it goes around there. As far as data is concerned, it goes up this line, and it does one continuous string all the way through all of that. Power, we get one power that goes to this shutter, and it's wide at the end. Another power is injected for the window, and a third power is injected for this shutter. So you get 3 lines to help power it all with no concerns of running out of juice. If you start getting too many pixels on one power line, you're going to start seeing flickering, or your colors will be dimmed or weird. Your whites may turn into like pinks, things like that. It'll just act funky. So if it starts acting funky, you know, look at your power. So the next thing to talk about is actually mounting onto the frames that make up all these elements. So you can see when the lights are on here, when it's daytime, all of this stuff is actually mounted into frames. So all of these frames are PVC, and they're all drilled on 2-inch centers, and I just used a tapered drill bit to drill all those holes. Come on, focus, there we go. Which was great. Drills through PVC like butter, and actually by the time you get to the width you need, which is down here at the end, you've poked through the other side, which helps you know where to drill the back hole. So it all worked out really easy, but you can see everything is just mounted in there. It's hard to see the backs in this setup, but essentially they're all pushed from the back through to the front. They all stay in the frames, and they get stored like that in the garage all year round. Just come out and hang it back up on the house every year. So once you get them made, it's not too bad. Making them does take a lot of time, but you know, again, time up front makes it easier as you move on. The mega trees also get stored like this. I've been contemplating how to make this more compact as far as something that breaks down. I don't ever foresee making huge mega trees. I just am not interested in that and the risk that comes along with it. But for now, it's all PVC. Again, just put a huge block on it to hold it down. Never had it fall over like that yet, so that works. These strips are from Holiday Coro, as is the tree topper. I keep the strips all in the tree topper and on the frame all year. I disconnect them from the base and just let them hang, just to release the tension on it. I don't know if it matters or not, but you know, why not? And that's it. And then put all the wires in a big bin. Everything is labeled and Easy to connect back up the next year. Everything uses Ray Wu style connectors. These are all waterproof connectors, so never have to worry about anything. I've actually come out here before and they've been sitting in puddles of water, and everything's still running fine. So go to a lot of effort to make sure that everything is waterproof so that I don't have to worry about it. When it comes to mounting on the house, there's nothing invasive on the whole house. So I should probably invest in like a zip tie manufacturer, because I spend a lot of time with zip ties. But when I had the frames, the first thing is these windows. If you look closely at the top, you can see that there's actually J-channel up here that's zip tied to the frame, and I just take that J-channel and hook it to the J-channel on the house. And you can see I just do this, like I just cut off a little section of a vinyl J-channel. You can get this at any hardware store, a couple bucks. I think, 10 foot, 12 foot strip of this was like $2.70 or something. That's how I do the 3 windows. There's this window, and that window. The roof lines, these, I'll show you the lower one. The top one is actually just zip tied to a gutter hanger, like you would do any string of lights, and then I just snap that over the gutter, and there it goes. It stays. Again, never had any problem. That's how those ones are up there too, and never had any problems with those either. The inner ones on the top, you can see there's metal rods in my soffits. Those are a product from a company. It's just soffithanger.com. Put a link in the description, but essentially it's just a rod that goes across, and you can fix it at a certain width so that it won't come out. And again, I just zip strip to those. The shutters are actually hung from the same metal rods. I'll get a little closer here so you can see. Just make a little chain out of this rod. And it stays there. I could take it off every year, never does any damage. And it holds it all. Again, it's all, it flaps a little bit, but nothing's ever given me any problems. The columns, I just create a little chain of zip strips around the actual column itself, and they stay put. On this side, we've got a gutter. I just attach it to the gutter straps that are there. And down here, those have always stayed. Again, Megatrees Holiday Coral sells the strips that you push the pixels into, and the tree topper itself. The QT2-2 is the model number of that. I'll put a link in the description. Been very happy with that. Again, nothing massive, just big enough for what I was looking for. I don't suspect I'll get a whole lot bigger. Usually I have some arches that run down in this area around this little turnaround. And I usually have some lights that go up this cruddy little walkway. We're planning on redoing a lot of this year, so we'll see what happens. But I'd like to get those back up, and then I want to get one more element right there for the upper part of the house. But that's as far as I'll probably ever take the show. I don't really want to get big. It takes me a day to set up and tear down, and that's enough for me. I don't need to spend days and days setting this stuff up, and it's all just because I enjoy it anyway. So there's the whole show. Let me know if you have any other questions. Happy to address them. Like I said, I'll make another video here about software. But that pretty much wraps it up. So hope that's helpful. Hopefully you can get somebody a kickstart into getting their own show set up. And thanks for watching. See you guys. How do you end these things?